Mara's boots sank into the thick, wet moss of the alien jungle, each step sending up a soft hiss of steam. The sky above burned with streaks of green and violet, alien clouds swirling as if alive. Every sound felt amplified, the distant roar of unseen predators, the snapping of branches, the whisper of something moving just beyond sight. Mara gripped her plasma rifle, heart hammering, eyes scanning the shifting shadows. It was then that she saw it, a tiny shape shivering in the mud. She crouched slowly, careful not to scare it. The cub's fur was mottled with black and gray, wet with rain, its golden eyes wide and terrified. It trembled violently, curling into itself as if trying to disappear from the world. Mara's chest tightened. She knelt closer. Hey, little one," she whispered, her voice low and soothing. The cub flinched but didn't run. Mara extended her hand cautiously. The small creature sniffed her fingers and then let out a soft whine. She glanced around. No alien pack in sight, no parent to defend it. She remembered the reports. These cubs were usually abandoned if they showed weakness. "Left to die," she muttered under her breath, anger tightening her jaw. Mara knew the risks. The jungle was crawling with hunters, both animal and alien, that wouldn't hesitate to see a lone cub as prey. She had orders to stay on the main path, avoid interference. But looking at those tiny, desperate eyes, she felt a surge of defiance. "I can't leave you here," she said, lifting the cub carefully into her arms. The moment she did, a scream pierced the air, a warning growl echoing through the trees. Mara froze. Out of the shadows, a hulking alien predator stepped forward. Its scales glimmered under the shifting light, claws clicking against wet stone. It was at least 3 times her size, its eyes cold, measuring. Mara's pulse raced. She held the cub tighter. "Stay calm," she muttered, raising her rifle. The weapon was small against the predator's bulk, but she had to try. The creature sniffed the air, then bared its fangs. Mara's mind raced. If she ran, it would follow. If she fired, she might scare it off, but there was a risk the predator could attack the cub instead. Before she could decide, the cub let out a high-pitched squeal and leapt from her arms. It landed nimbly, fur bristling, teeth small but sharp, eyes blazing. The predator paused, confused. The cub crouched, growled, and then charged. Mara's jaw dropped. She hadn't expected it to defend her. The cub's small body twisted and struck, dodging claws that could have ripped it apart. The predator roared in frustration, swiping, but the cub was relentless. It lunged again and again, drawing the creature's attention, giving Mara the chance to retreat to higher ground. Good boy," she shouted, feeling her heart leap. The cub responded with a triumphant bark, standing tall against a predator far bigger than itself. Mara couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. Even in this deadly world, a bond was forming that was stronger than fear. As the predator finally backed off and disappeared into the shadows, Mara knelt beside the cub. Its tiny chest heaved, and it stared up at her with an almost human intelligence. "You're braver than anyone I know," she said softly, running her hand through its wet fur. The rain began to fall harder, hammering down, turning the ground into slippery mud. Mara realized they couldn't stay in the open. She scanned the trees and spotted a hollow at the base of an enormous vine-wrapped trunk. Carefully she lifted the cub, carrying it inside the shelter. The hollow was dry, warm, and strangely safe. As the storm raged outside, Mara studied the cub. It was still trembling, but not from fear anymore. It was alive, aware, and learning. She wondered what it was about this creature that had made the alien pack abandon it. There was something different in its eyes, a spark of cunning, intelligence, maybe even defiance. Mara sighed, exhausted. "Looks like it's just you and me, little one," she whispered. The cub pressed against her chest, whimpering softly as if understanding every word. She felt a pang of worry. This world was harsh, unforgiving. A single misstep could mean death for both of them. But for some reason she believed in this tiny creature. Hours passed and the storm eased. Outside, the jungle seemed quieter, almost watching. Mara found some roots and soft leaves to make a nest. She fed the cub a synthetic protein paste she carried, its small jaws snapping hungrily. When it finally settled, curling against her arm, Mara allowed herself a moment of hope. "This is the start," she whispered. "No one gave you a chance, but I will. I promise." And in that hollow, against the pounding rain, a strange new partnership began. The cub had survived against impossible odds, and Mara had defied orders to save it. Neither knew yet how dangerous the jungle would become, or what enemies would come for them, but for the first time, both felt a spark of determination. Together they might not just survive, they might change the rules of this world entirely. The sun barely pierced the thick canopy as Mara crept through the alien jungle, the cub trailing closely behind her. Its paws left tiny prints in the damp soil, ears twitching at every sound. The air was heavy with the scent of rain and decay, and somewhere above, alien birds screamed in eerie harmony. Mara's eyes scanned the shadows, alert to every flicker of movement. She had learned quickly that this world didn't forgive carelessness. "You've got to stay close," she whispered to the cub. It responded with a soft yip, pressing its small body against her leg. Mara smiled faintly. Its loyalty amazed her, but she knew that trust wouldn't protect it forever. Suddenly, a rustle broke the silence. Mara froze, holding her breath. The cub's ears flattened as it crouched low, growling softly. A massive shape emerged from the undergrowth, a predator larger than the last, sleek and black, with jagged scales glinting in the dappled sunlight. Its eyes glowed crimson, fixed on them with predatory focus. Mara's heart pounded. She whispered sharply, "No sudden moves," but the creature was already circling, sniffing the air, testing them. Her pulse raced and she could feel the cub shivering beside her. This was no ordinary test. The predator was hunting and they were its prey. Instinct took over. Mara darted to a nearby tree and shoved the cub into a low branch hollow, whispering, "Hide. Don't move." The cub's golden eyes met hers, filled with confusion and fear. Mara clenched her fists. "I'll be back for you," she promised, knowing she had no real plan. The predator lunged, swiping at the hollow, its claws scraping dangerously close. Mara rolled, firing a warning shot. The sound echoed through the trees, startling the creature but not deterring it. It snarled, shaking the branches as if trying to flush the cub out. Mara's chest tightened. She hadn't realized just how intelligent these hunters could be. They studied, they waited, they adapted. Then the cub leapt from the hollow, teeth bared, and lunged at the predator. Mara gasped. The small creature dodged a claw with astonishing speed, rolling to the side and snapping at the predator's leg. The predator hissed, taken off guard, but quickly regained its balance. Mara realized the cub wasn't just brave, it was learning, calculating. "Good job, but stay smart," she shouted, firing another shot, aiming to distract rather than harm. The predator yelped, its attention now divided, giving the cub a chance to retreat toward Mara. Her pulse raced as adrenaline surged through her veins. Every step, every movement mattered. One misstep could mean death. The predator circled again, this time faster, testing their endurance. Mara moved backward, keeping her eyes on both the creature and the cub. The ground was uneven, roots and vines threatening to trip her. She stumbled and the predator surged forward, snapping its jaws. The cub hissed, darting in front of her, its small body a shield. Mara felt a jolt of both fear and awe. "You're incredible," she muttered, dodging a swipe. Her mind raced. She had faced dangers before, but none like this. An alien creature perfectly adapted to hunting, facing a human and a small cub as if it were a game. The cub's survival instincts were astonishing, and she couldn't help but feel a rising pride. Suddenly, the predator lunged for a final strike. Mara dove sideways, rolling into a shallow ditch. She grabbed the cub mid-roll, holding it tight as the predator's claws scraped past. The impact shook the ground, sending a tremor of fear through both of them. Mara's heart pounded, sweat stinging her eyes. She had underestimated how dangerous the jungle really was. "We need to move," she whispered urgently, pulling the cub toward denser cover. The predator hissed one last time, then disappeared into the shadows, retreating but clearly watching, waiting for another opportunity. Mara's knees shook as she dropped to the ground, panting. The cub whimpered, brushing against her hand, and she felt a surge of relief. They had survived, but just barely. As they caught their breath, Mara looked down at the cub. Its fur was matted, and there were small scratches along its flank, but its eyes shone with a fierce determination. It had not only survived its first real hunt, it had fought back and even protected her. Mara knelt, brushing a strand of wet hair from its face. "You're not just a survivor," she said softly. "You're a fighter. And we're going to need that." The cub pressed its head against her chest, letting out a low, contented growl. Mara could feel the bond strengthening, a connection deeper than fear or instinct. They were learning from each other, adapting, becoming more than human and cub. They were a team. Night fell and the jungle seemed to hold its breath. Mara found a shallow cave, sheltering them from the creeping mist and distant howls. She fed the cub some synthetic protein paste, and it ate hungrily, eyes alert even while chewing. Mara leaned against the cave wall, exhaustion pulling at her limbs, but she felt a thrill that she hadn't felt in years. "We made it through today," she whispered. "But tomorrow will be even harder." The cub yipped softly as if acknowledging the warning. Mara studied the dark jungle outside, knowing that every shadow could hold another predator, more cunning and dangerous than the last. Yet for the first time she felt hope. With the cub beside her, she didn't feel alone. In that cave, beneath the alien stars, Mara realized something profound. The jungle wasn't just a place of death and fear, it was a crucible. And together, she and the cub were beginning to learn how to survive, how to fight, and perhaps, how to change the destiny that had been forced upon them both. The morning fog clung to the jungle like a living thing, curling around the twisted vines and jagged rocks. Mara moved carefully, the cub following silently, its golden eyes scanning every shadow. The previous day's encounter had left them both tense. Mara could still feel the predator's presence in her bones, a lingering weight that made her skin crawl. She knew the jungle didn't forget, it waited. "Stay close," Mara whispered, her hand brushing against the cub's wet fur. It responded with a soft nudge, its small body pressed against her side. She smiled faintly, though her mind was already calculating. Something felt off. There was a silence now that didn't belong, a lull before danger struck. Without warning, a chilling screech pierced the air. Mara froze, heart hammering. The cub crouched instinctively, ears flat, growling low. Out of the mist emerged not one, but two predators, larger and faster than the last. Their scales shimmered like black glass, and their eyes glowed red, fixated on Mara and the cub. These hunters were different. Smarter, coordinated, moving with the precision of pack-trained predators. Mara felt a rush of fear, sharp and immediate. "We need to move," she hissed. She grabbed the cub, sprinting toward a narrow ravine that she had spotted earlier. The predators mirrored her movements, closing the distance with terrifying speed. Mara's lungs burned as she leaped over roots and ducked under hanging vines. Behind her, the creatures hissed in unison, each step shaking the wet soil. Suddenly, the cub wriggled free and darted to the side, snarling. Mara's stomach dropped. "Don't. Stay with me," she shouted, panic rising. The cub's agility surprised her. It twisted, ducked, and lunged, striking one of the predators squarely in the snout. It yelped in pain, but Mara could see that it had only distracted it temporarily. The second predator lunged at Mara. She rolled to the side, narrowly avoiding sharp claws that gouged the earth where she had been standing seconds before. Her rifle was useless at this range. Desperation clawed at her mind. "Think, Mara, think," she muttered, scanning the terrain. The cub leaped onto a low branch, hissing and snapping at the first predator, drawing it upward. Mara seized the opportunity, sliding down the ravine to a patch of thick ferns. She grabbed a jagged rock, then hurled it at the second predator. The creature roared, staggering back. Mara didn't wait to see the outcome. She ran, adrenaline fueling her legs. Finally, they reached a cliff edge overlooking a narrow river. Mara's eyes widened. The predators had stopped, circling below, seemingly unwilling to follow into the water. She exhaled sharply, lowering the cub to the ground. Its sides heaved, tongue lolling, but its eyes were fierce, unyielding. "You did good," Mara whispered, crouching beside it. She felt her chest tighten, a mix of relief and awe. This small creature was fearless, almost reckless, yet clever beyond instinct. She couldn't remember the last time she had felt such pride. Then movement caught her eye. Across the river, shadows shifted unnaturally. Mara's pulse quickened. Two more figures emerged, humanoid but clad in sleek armor, their faces hidden behind reflective visors. Mara instinctively shielded the cub. "Humans," one of them called, voice distorted but clear. "You shouldn't be here." Mara froze, recognition flashing. Scouts from the Galactic Exploration Corps, the enforcement unit tasked with keeping colonists from interfering with dangerous alien species. Her heart sank. Their mission was containment, and anyone who meddled with alien life was a threat. We're just surviving," Mara said, trying to keep her voice steady. This cub was abandoned. It needed help. The figures paused, scanning the jungle. The cub growled, low in warning. Mara could feel the tension crackling like electricity. She didn't know if they would shoot or retreat. Then the taller one spoke, voice sharper. "A cub like that could be dangerous. We can't allow it to live. Step aside." Mara's mind raced. They didn't understand, it wasn't just a cub. It had intelligence, strategy, and a bond with her. She shook her head. "No, you don't understand. It's not a threat, not yet. It's learning, growing. You'll never control it." The cub let out a sharp yip, crouching beside her as if ready to fight. Mara's pulse surged. She felt an unfamiliar surge of protectiveness, fiercer than any fear. "We fight together," she whispered. The figures hesitated, clearly calculating. Mara had only a few seconds to act. She grabbed the cub, dashing toward a hidden cave she had spotted earlier along the riverbank. The cub followed immediately, agile and alert. Shots rang out, ricocheting off rocks, but they were already moving too fast, slipping into the shelter as the fog swallowed them. Outside, the scouts shouted, frustrated, their footsteps echoing through the trees. Inside the cave, Mara let the cub down. Its golden eyes shone in the dim light, reflecting her own mixture of fear and triumph. "We're not safe yet," she said softly, pressing a hand to its wet fur. "But we survived. And we'll keep surviving. Together." The jungle outside was silent once more, but Mara knew it wouldn't remain so for long. Shadows lingered at every edge and threats, both alien and human, were closing in. She looked at the cub and for the first time she felt the weight of responsibility, not just for her own life, but for a creature the universe had tried to erase. The predator's shadow was long and danger was everywhere. But Mara clenched her fists, determination hardening in her chest. They had survived this trial, and the bond between human and cub had only grown stronger. Tomorrow, she knew, would bring even greater challenges, and they would face them as one. The jungle was quieter than usual, but Mara knew better than to trust silence. The fog hung low, twisting through the trees like phantom fingers. She moved cautiously, the cub at her side, its ears twitching at every distant sound. Its fur was drying, but its eyes burned with alertness. Mara felt a mixture of pride and unease. Pride in how far they had come, unease because the world beyond the jungle had not forgiven her for defying orders. They reached a clearing where Mara had arranged to meet a small group of human allies, explorers sent to help stranded or endangered lifeforms. Relief washed over her when she spotted familiar faces. She called out, "We made it. Follow me quick." The cub padded behind her, tail low but twitching with nervous energy. At first, everything seemed normal. Supplies were exchanged, maps spread across a flat rock, and Mara explained the cub's story. "It's not just a cub," she said firmly. "It's smart, it reacts like no other alien creature I've seen. You have to see it, understand it, don't just write it off as an anomaly." Her allies nodded politely, but something in their eyes made Mara's stomach tighten. They were watching her and not just listening, they were calculating. She noticed subtle shifts, whispered glances, small gestures that didn't align with camaraderie. As night fell, one of them, a tall man named Corinne, suggested they make camp near a river bend. Mara agreed, trusting their experience, but she didn't notice the way he kept lingering near her pack, touching her supplies, checking her equipment. Her heart skipped when she saw him eyeing the cub, crouched in a shadow, its fur gleaming in the dim firelight. Mara knelt beside the cub. "Stay close," she murmured. The cub pressed against her chest. She could feel the small rhythm of its heart matching hers, fast, nervous, alive. Mara didn't notice the figure moving silently behind them until a hand reached for the cub. "No!" Mara shouted, spinning around. Corinne froze, just beyond the light, a half smile on his face. "Relax," he said, voice calm but eyes calculating. "I just wanted to see it closer. Surely it's safe with me?" Mara felt a surge of anger and betrayal. "Back off. It's not yours to touch," she snapped. Her hands gripped the cub protectively, pulling it closer. The creature growled low, teeth bared, ears flat. Even Mara's allies were watching now, tense, unsure who would make the next move. Corinne stepped closer, shrugging casually, but Mara could see the glint of a containment device in his hand. "Orders are orders," he said, voice low, almost cruel. "That cub is classified. We can't let it roam free. You've broken protocol, Mara. You should have known what would happen." Fear and fury collided in her chest. "I don't care about your orders," she yelled. "This creature is alive. It's learning, growing. It's not a weapon, it's not an experiment. It's living, breathing, surviving. And I won't let you take it." Corinne's smirk faltered, but only for a second. "You can't stop what's coming. You're alone now." Before Mara could react, the cub leaped from her arms, hissing and lunging at Corinne. The small body twisted midair, claws raking his arm, teeth snapping at his sleeve. Corinne staggered back, startled, dropping the containment device. Mara's pulse thundered as she grabbed a nearby branch, swinging it to block his path. "Get away from it," she shouted, adrenaline sharpening her every sense. The cub circled her legs, eyes gleaming with a mix of fear and fury, ready to defend her. Mara realized that this bond was no longer just protection, it was partnership. They were a team, instinct and strategy intertwined. Corinne lunged again and Mara dodged, pushing him toward the river's edge. He stumbled and the cub darted between them, growling so ferociously that even Mara flinched. "Stay back," she yelled. Corinne raised his hands, stepping backward, and Mara could see panic in his eyes for the first time. The jungle seemed to hold its breath. The other allies had frozen, unsure whether to intervene. Mara's heart pounded. "If you touch it again, I swear I'll—" Her voice broke as the cub growled, tail flicking aggressively. Corinne's arm was scratched, bleeding slightly. He muttered a curse and retreated into the shadows, disappearing as silently as he had appeared. Mara sank to her knees, breathing hard, hugging the cub close. Its small body trembled, not from fear but from exertion. She ran her fingers through its fur. "We did it, we survived this too," she whispered. Relief and exhaustion mixed in her chest. She felt the weight of trust shattered, the realization that humans could be as dangerous as the jungle itself. The cub licked her cheek, a tiny, comforting gesture that made her laugh through tears. Mara's mind raced. They were no longer just surviving the wild, they had to survive the world that was supposed to help them. Betrayal had a new face now, one she had never expected. Outside the clearing, the jungle hummed quietly. The fog thickened, hiding unseen eyes and unheard movements. Mara pressed a hand to her chest, feeling the cub's heartbeat align with hers. Together they had faced both predator and traitor. And together she knew they would face whatever came next, stronger, sharper, and unwilling to be caught. The jungle was alive with danger, every shadow hiding unseen eyes. Mara and the cub moved carefully, the ground slick with mud and rainwater. The sky was dark, thick clouds twisting above them, lightning flashing briefly, revealing the jagged shapes of alien trees. Mara's pulse raced, not from fear alone, but from the knowledge that today could decide everything. Ahead, the jungle opened into a wide clearing, the heart of the predator's territory. Mara's breath caught. Across the clearing, a massive creature emerged, larger than any she had seen before, a living nightmare. Its scales glimmered like obsidian, jagged and sharp, and its eyes burned crimson. The cub growled low, ears flat and pressed against her leg. Mara felt her heart tighten. This was not a hunt. It was a test of survival, of courage, of destiny. "You ready for this?" she whispered, brushing the cub's fur. The cub met her gaze, teeth bared, tail flicking aggressively. Mara nodded. They would face this together. The predator roared, a sound that shook the trees and echoed through the valley. Mara raised her rifle, but she knew it wouldn't be enough. The creature was too large, too fast, too smart. She had only one option: fight strategically, using the cub's speed and her own cunning. The cub darted forward first, agile and fearless. It twisted and leapt, claws raking the predator's legs. The creature hissed and lunged, but the cub dodged, leading it toward a narrow ravine. Mara followed, firing warning shots that distracted it just enough. The predator roared again, shaking the earth, but Mara could see its frustration. The cub was smarter than expected. Suddenly the ground beneath them trembled. Smaller predators emerged from the trees, drawn by the chaos. Mara's stomach sank. They were surrounded. Her mind raced, trying to calculate a plan. "We can't outrun them all," she muttered. The cub growled in agreement, crouching low. Mara spotted a narrow ledge above the clearing, barely wide enough for them to climb. "Up there," she shouted, pointing. The cub hesitated, then followed her as she scrambled upward. The ledge was steep, slippery, but it offered the advantage. From above they could strike strategically, use gravity to their favor. The predators below hissed and circled, their claws scraping against rocks. Mara's hands shook as she loaded another shot, but she realized the cub didn't need her protection, not fully. It had become a fighter, a guardian. The creature had grown not only in size but in intelligence, learning from every encounter. With a shared glance, Mara and the cub moved in synchrony. She kicked a loose rock, sending it tumbling down toward the largest predator. It roared, distracted, while the cub leapt from the ledge, striking its flank with precision. The predator howled in pain, thrashing wildly, and Mara seized the moment, pulling a vine and swinging across to strike another predator below. The fight was chaos, a blur of movement, claws and teeth. Mara's muscles ached, her breath came in ragged gasps, but adrenaline sharpened every sense. The cub moved like a shadow, striking, dodging, guiding the predators toward traps Mara improvised with fallen branches and rocks. Together they were unstoppable, instinct and strategy blending seamlessly. Hours, or maybe minutes, time seemed to blur, the battle raged. Finally the largest predator roared one last time, staggering from the combined assaults. Mara and the cub pressed forward, not with fear but with determination. With a final coordinated strike, the creature collapsed, defeated but alive, a humbling reminder of the jungle's power. Mara sank to her knees, chest heaving. The cub pressed against her, its body shaking from exertion but triumphant. Tears streamed down Mara's face. We did it," she whispered. "You did it. We did it together." The smaller predators scattered into the trees, leaving the clearing quiet. Mara looked around, scanning for new threats, but the jungle seemed to pause, almost acknowledging their victory. She patted the cub's head. "You're more than a survivor," she said softly. "You're a legend in the making." As dawn broke, streaks of light cutting through the mist, Mara and the cub stood at the edge of the clearing, looking out over the jungle. It was no longer a place that could terrify them. It was a proving ground, a crucible where strength, intelligence and courage had been forged. Mara's thoughts turned to the wider galaxy. The scouts, the human enforcers, the betrayals, they would all come again, but she was ready. And the cub, no longer small or defenseless, was ready too. Together they had survived the impossible, faced predators larger and smarter than either could have imagined, and emerged stronger. The cub barked softly and Mara laughed through her exhaustion. "Yeah," she said, brushing a strand of wet hair from its face. "You've changed destiny, our destiny. The world won't forget us now." She took a deep breath, feeling the cool jungle air fill her lungs. Every scar, every scrape, every fear had led to this moment. Mara knew the galaxy was vast, filled with dangers, but she had learned something that no training could teach. Courage was not just about survival. It was about connection, trust, and the willingness to fight when everything was against you. The cub nudged her hand as if understanding her thoughts. Mara smiled. "We'll face whatever comes next, together." And with that, human and cub turned back toward the jungle, shadows stretching behind them, ready to write a new story. A story of courage, defiance, and a destiny forged in fire.